watch our show. Better River sponsors. It's time to start the Joe Show.
Well, good day to everyone. It's Betting Weekly Live on Wednesday, the 25th of September. Here with Steve Wyss, and I've got Spanish expert and handicapper Ruairidh Barlow with me. How you doing, Rory?
Yeah, delighted to be on. It's great to be back with you, Steve. I feel like our appearances are too far apart now. I miss you.
I know. I was the last time you were on. You did deliver at least one big winner. It was a tie. I think you advised in a La Liga game. I think it ended 0-0. So you've got decent form. There's been a lot of winners on this live show. Big shout out yesterday for James Easton's best bet of the day on a handicap on Mets. It won 6-0. That guy is absolutely flying right now. And I'll be recording a new episode with him tomorrow. And I'm sure he'll be firing out some more winners. But welcoming everyone. How did your betting go on Tuesday? What are you betting on today? Let us know in the comments. Welcoming to Kirk. Likes Mitchell and team total over 1.5. We'll be talking about Europa League in this show. We've got 2 La Liga games to start with, and we're going to talk about EFL Cup as well. And as I say, finishing off by Europa League matches today, and maybe a brief talk on the outright future market there as well. But we're going to start with the biggest game of the day, which is a late kickoff. This is at 3 p.m. Eastern. Barcelona against Getafe. Barcelona are the short price favourites here. Minus 480 on the money line. You can get Getafe at 12-1, and the over-under goal line is 3.5 there, plus 138. And Barcelona have done me well this year, Rory, I must say, as a general overs backer. They have served me pretty well. I've really enjoyed what I'm seeing from them, actually. They look a lot better in terms of entertainment and the start of football. Bit of a shame they've had a few injuries. This game, though, I'm not sure it's going to explode because Getafe are not known for opening things up. What's your take on the game? Barcelona minus 480. Are they a nice little parlay piece? Is someone to add?
Yeah, for me they are. I think with Barcelona, it's quite hard to get a handle on them in some senses because even when you look at the game and you think, right, okay, that should be a little bit more low scoring, or in the case of Valladolid, who also came to Montjuic to defend, they got beaten 7-0. They were absolutely thumped. I think the game against Villarreal, even though it was a back and forth game and both teams had chances, they ended up winning 5-1. So it shows you just how confident and effective they are at the moment. And the one person you have to talk about, the headline, is Lamine Yamal. He is just off the scale good at the moment. The pass that he puts through to Rafinha for the final goal in that Villarreal game is just outstanding. I don't think I've ever seen an outside of the foot pass go that long and be that effective before. So yeah, it is an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, there was actually one of the guys in the comments last week, Steve Gregory, advised Yamal to score from outside the area against Monaco at 14-1. It was a great pick, but he's capable of something special like that. He looks in great form. Welcoming COD Gaming, Subahuman as well. He likes Barca under 3.5 goals at plus money, plus Yamal to score or assist. Now, that would be an interesting combo. I was thinking Barcelona under 3.5 here. The last 5 head-to-head meetings, and I'm not a head-to-head man, but it always seems quite relevant with Getafe. Nothing seems to change with them. They've been both teams scoring no, but Barca did win this fixture 4-0 last year. I guess that's the danger if they go on one of their tearing up sprees. But midweek, is there more chance of them taking it a bit easy, taking the foot off the gas in the second half if they are ahead by a few? Might Getafe frustrate them for a while?
Yeah, there's a few things playing into this. I think last season, that 4-0 that you're talking about, Barcelona dealt with a Getafe side that really kind of pressed high and really kind of went at them, which is not Getafe's usual way, although they do press quite a lot. It just kind of depends on what kind of level they set that at. But Getafe had a bad summer. They haven't got a lot of recruits in. So they are kind of operating on a minimum kind of skeleton squad right now. So I think that does play into it. I think with Barcelona, the fact that they're just so confident right now means that I personally would be reluctant to go unders 3.5, just because you never know 3 or 4 goals. I've gone both teams to score no. You mentioned that kind of stat there. And I think both teams to score no. I looked at the 3-way spread as well. So I parlayed both teams to score no. Barca -1. So it starts 1-0 to Getafe, and that comes back at +125. And I think, Yeah, that last game, this is kind of the second or third time that Barcelona will face kind of a lower block or a more defensive side. And in those games, one of them was Valladolid, which was 7-0. The other was Valencia, which was 2-1, and a bit more kind of shaky to so to speak. But it's still a side that has players coming in trying to prove their points. So Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski, we know they're all on form, but young midfielder Pablo Torre, who scored and assisted at the weekend, he's trying to earn a spot or earn more minutes. Pau Victor, I think we'll see at some point during this game. Ansu Fati might be coming back into the fold for this game as well. So there are kind of various moving parts for this Barcelona side. And personally, I kind of think they'll look to get this done within 60, 70 minutes and then look to kind of rotate and rest a little bit more. So I think you could see an early first half is one of those things to look at. I think you could see an early kind of blitz from Barcelona and then things kind of taper out towards the end of this game, as happened with Real Madrid until they conceded 2 goals in the last 7 minutes last night.
Yeah, so your bet here, Rory, is Barcelona on the -1 handicap. This is a straight handicap. They've got to win by more than 1 goal here, otherwise you lose the bet. In combination with both teams to score no, that's at +125. Barcelona win to nil is at -127 if you wanted to include the 1-0 for those who want to be a bit safer. I don't have a pick for this game. I think it's I just don't get involved in Getafe matches very often. I'm not an underbacker. If Nigel Seeley was Nigel does like unders a lot, and I think Getafe will be right up his street. Someone who likes unders, Getafe are your sort of team.
Listen, I don't mind Getafe. I quite enjoyed him as a kind of villain character in La Liga, but it does save you watching Getafe games if you don't bet on Getafe. So.
Good afternoon, Ray Burke and Shakespeare. Good morning to you. Now, Shakespeare, both of his 2 MLB players have won this week. Comes up with one every day for us. San Diego over the LA Dodgers, +115 to go 3 in a row for Shakespeare. Good to see you. Good to see you, my man. Now, the next game, we might as well stick with the Liga while we're at it. This is the earlier kickoff. And the Girona are more my sort of team, Rory. But I've got to be honest, they have let me down in the last couple of games. I was on the PSG handicap. I got a half loser on that one. And then at the weekend, I was on their overs against Valencia. I can't remember the last time that they didn't score in 2 straight games. The Girona are very much known for hitting the back of the net quite a lot, aren't they? They are -143 now to beat Rayo Vallecano today. This is an early kickoff time. This is 1 p.m. Eastern. So there's been some money for Girona. There's been a pretty stable market with over 2.5 goals, -110. Now, -110 on over 2.5 for a Girona game would interest me quite a lot, Rory. But I'm put off by the last couple of games. What has happened? How do we suddenly go from these wild Girona games to a 0-1 defeat and a 0-2 defeat without them seemingly creating much? What's happened?
Yeah, they're a really hard team to get a handle on right now because you're kind of operating in... This is just going to be their 3rd home game of the season, so take that into account. PSG are obviously opponents of quite large stature and a lot of quality. You look at Atleti, obviously big team, hard to go to away from home. Barcelona, so they've had a really tough fixture list to come into. And you look at that Valencia game as well. Valencia are a side that really needed a result at home. They can make it difficult for any team. So it is quite hard to get a handle on where their squad's at right now, because as well, they're coming off a summer where they lost a lot of their players. They're kind of still adapting, I think, to Michel's style, the new players at least anyway. And they're up against the Rayo side that, again, kind of quite hard to get a handle on. The first kind of 2-3 games of the season, you looked at them and you thought, right, okay, this is another team that is going to be toying with the drop. But the last 4 games, they've been much, much better. And they've looked more like Anthony Iraola's Rayo Vallecano side from a couple of years ago. So that's promising to see. Rayo in this one. Again, I'm kind of looking at both teams to score. In this case, yes, as opposed to no, as I was in the last one. Rayo, both teams to score in their last 4 has come in. And all but one of their games, in the last kind of 5, 6, 7 games have come in as well. Girona, both teams to score has come in just 2 out of 7. But take into account the opposition, I think. Look at Valencia, who are kind of miserly side. Look at PSG, Barcelona, Atleti. So they're tough games to score in. This is just their 3rd home game. I think they need a result in this one. And I think Girona, I think it's their last 7 out of 8 they've scored at home. So I like them to score. I like them to get on the score sheet. I like Rayo to score. And if you combine both teams to score, which is -121. That's my kind of bet. If you combine that with Girona to win, at the time it was at +255. It might have shortened just a little bit, but if you really like Girona, and I think if you have time, if you can, watch the first 10, 20 minutes of this. If Girona look good, back Girona with both teams not to score, and that will really boost your odds.
Yeah, I did actually cash with a Rayo both teams to score against Osasuna a couple of rounds ago. That was at plus money. But I've got to be honest, it was a stats pick. I don't usually watch Rayo matches very often. Another one of those teams that I've been really getting into La Liga the last couple of years, but Rayo are just not one of them teams since Iriola left that I've been that interested in, to be honest. There has been, I can tell you now, there's 55% of the money on the under for this game, which is pretty unusual. That just shows you maybe the bettors are thinking out there now that Girona are going to be an unders team. This could be a really big barometer fixture. Let's see how they're looking, like you say. If they start off and it looks like normal Girona, get on board with the goals. But if it feels flat again, then it might be the start of a problem for those who are getting on goals for Girona games. But Adi Tooth has not put off. He says Girona over 1.5 goals. He also likes Barcelona -2 on the Asian handicap. Henry VIII. Yes, I saw your comment on YouTube yesterday. Yeah, my apologies as well, actually. I should have realised that they were involved in the EFL fixture yesterday, the under-21s. We'll talk about Manchester United against Twente later, actually, in the Europa League. So both teams score. Yes, that's your pick for the game. I don't have anything here in the Liga. Just before we start Europa League, I'm going to talk about the League Cup in England, the EFL Cup. And I can tell you that was a house special from Bet Rivers on betrivers.com and the Bet Rivers app. At least 7 goals scored in total in the 2 games on screen there. Arsenal against Bolton and Liverpool against West Ham, plus 175. So you need 7 goals across the 2 games and you will cash a winner. Now that might be very, very interesting because the goals can flow in these cup games. I've got to be, this is not a competition I target. Arsenal really short money favourite here, -910. I was talking about the Manchester City game yesterday, and I just feel like it's quite a hard competition, to be honest with you. But Liverpool-West Ham, I think, is a more intriguing affair. We've got, obviously, under pressure West Ham. That is the big talking point going into this game. Liverpool short price favourite, -278 on the money line. West Ham at 7-1. Likely to be quite a bit of rotation here from Liverpool. But from a West Ham perspective, their manager, Julen Lopetegui, is one of the favourites to be first manager out. We Bet Rivers, he's plus 600. Actually, the joint second favourite. There's 5 managers at plus 600. Sean Dyche is the favourite at plus 250. I don't really see Dyche going. We've talked about this. The guys on the Premier League show have talked about this. Dyche might be a favourite to take on here. Is he worth taking on with Lopetegui? If West Ham suddenly fired him, would any Spanish clubs be queuing up to get him in, Rory? What's his reputation over there these days?
Lopetegui is a funny one because he's quite clearly a very good manager, and West Ham have spent a lot of money on him. So I sort of think they'd be reluctant to sack him quite so soon. But stranger things have happened. And I think you look at Milan, who were set to appoint Lopetegui in the summer. He was all more or less agreed to go there. He started discussing players. And then the backlash from the fans because Lopetegui, in their opinion at least, was not an attractive enough manager in terms of style, in terms of what he brought to the table, kind of stopped them hiring him. So it's interesting to me that he's gone to West Ham to replace David Moyes, because David Moyes seemingly wasn't up at the London Stadium. So yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I think Lopetegui, based on his track record, you have to back him to stick around. I mean, there's very few places he's failed. The places he has failed are at Real Madrid, basically, and Spain. He didn't really get fair shot.
Do you think he'll take this match seriously? I mean, you probably know him a little bit better than me, maybe. It's a cup match, and we know what foreign coaches tend to maybe discount them a little bit. But because he's under pressure, does he need a result here, or at least a performance at Anfield? Plus 700 on the nose. Would that interest you, do you think, in a desperate situation? Or will it be okay if he loses?
He is the kind of manager that I think that even if he rotates and doesn't take it seriously in inverted commas, it will be to stuff up Liverpool. This game will be organisation. This will be about doing your job. And this will be about kind of proving to him that you can be useful to him in the Premier League games. I don't like Liverpool to score loads in this game, to be perfectly honest, even though Liverpool have been free for the Lopetegui are going to be kind of battered by Liverpool or anyone else, to be honest. But that hasn't proven the case so far.
Under 3.5 goals is minus 148. Maybe that could be an angle here if that version of Lopetegui and West Ham come up. I just kind of feel that they need something here. They were so bad. They were so bad at the weekend. They really were. Okay, well, we're going to move on to Simon. Welcome to the show, by the way. Ray Burke likes an Iceland game. Víkingur Reykjavik -1. It's been a while since I've actually bet on that league. I was looking at it in around June time when there was not much else on domestically. But yeah, there you go. Víkingur Reykjavik could be one to look at in Iceland today. Europa League, we're going to be touching on now. We might touch on the futures market later, but there's tons of matches today. We start in the Arctic Circle, Bodo Glimt against Porto, right the way down to Nice versus Real Sociedad. Loads of matches to get yourself tucked into, and there's no better place to start, is there, than that top game, Bodo Glimt against Porto. You've got to pick for this one, Rory. I've got to pick for this game as well. Very intriguing clash. This Bodo Glimt, the Norwegian champions, they are one of the most northerly professional soccer teams in the entire world. I mean, for 6 weeks in the summer, it doesn't get dark here, Rory. Literally, there's 24 hours of daylight, and then controversially in winter, the sun hardly comes up the sky. So this can be a very, very difficult place to go. I've got some stats on Bodo Glimt I'm going to talk about soon. But Porto, we're used to them being in the Champions League. This is a bit of a different situation for them. Sporting won last week. Benfica won last week in the Champions League. They look quite good. You think Porto can emulate them here? Get the win away in Norway?
Yes. I think this is one that I don't want to overthink. I don't think you'd be so bold as to oppose me. Maybe, Steve, you would be. But Porto to win, I think -112 is a good bet here. I mean, you look at Porto, and even though they brought in a new manager who's going to look for a little bit more of an expansive style compared to Sergio Conceição, they still have that Champions League experience. Even without Pepe, they're still miserly to an extent. And I think if you just look at the quality in their squad as well, they've got a lot of really good players, international Euro 2024 players that have performed at World Cups as well. So I kind of like them to win. 4 clean sheets in their last 7 is the key for me. They're organised and they'll look to hit Bodo Glimt on the break. Whereas Bodo Glimt, from what I know, and you'll know more about them, Steve, because you pay more closer attention, they're a side that's expansive. They're a side that looks to attack in games. And coming from a smaller league, with all due respect to Scotland, this is the same thing that happens with Celtic. When Celtic get into Europe, they struggle at the top level. And I think Porto are still a top-level team as opposed to necessarily, in inverted commas, a Europa League team. Because Celtic are used to playing teams where they can beat and they can really kind of enforce their style of play on. And I think Bodo Glimt won't be able to do that. They do have European experience. They beat Roma last season, of course. They do have kind of pedigree, but I just like Porto a little bit too much here.
No, I'm not actually going to oppose you here. My bet for the game is over 2.75 goals at -127. And I've got some interesting stats here. Since Bodo Glimt kind of became one of the dominant teams in Norway and qualified for Europe regularly back in 2020, they have played 30 games at home, 23 wins, 3 draws and 4 defeats. 20 of those matches have gone over 2.5 goals. They've only failed to score in 3 of those 30 fixtures. And on 22 occasions, they've scored at least 2 goals. This is at home. However, the teams that have beaten them in recent times were PSV, Arsenal 1-0 and Club Brugge 1-0. So you're right what you say. When a team of really good quality comes here, perhaps it's just too much for Glimt. And in Monkey Business has said there, the golfing class is enormous. It kind of is. There is definitely a golf. It's a plastic pitch, a synthetic surface. That could be something that Porto have got to adapt to, but they do play good technical football, don't they? So it shouldn't be a problem as long as they sort of get their mindset around it. I've checked the weather, as you have to do for a place like here, and it's not going to be too bad, around 10 degrees Celsius, that's pretty warm this time of year up there, I tell you now. You don't want to be travelling to Bodo Glimt in November, December, and January. If they've even got a home match in January, that would be ridiculous. That's the short straw. So I get where you're coming from. This could look a massive price on Porto at the end of the game, but I think Glimt can get on the score sheet. They usually score at home. I like the goals. over 2.5, over 2.75 at minus 120. Right, okay. Next game that I want to talk about is the other. This is both of these matches, by the way. Bodo Glimt against Porto and AZ Alkmaar against Elfsborg are early kickoffs, 12:45 Eastern time. AZ against Elfsborg. This is another match I like the goals. I like over 3 Asian goals here at around a minus 109. Now, Elfsborg did me dirty in the qualifying. All 6 of their qualifying games for this competition ended in under 2.5 goals. And I think I was on the over in about 5 of them.
You sound like you haven't forgiven them, Steve.
I quite like them. I think there's only one team in this whole competition that's got a lower UEFA coefficient than Elfsborg. I can't remember who that is. So they're not expected to be in this competition. I think they're going to enjoy themselves. They're not that bad a team. They're very well coached. They've got, a young manager who has impressed me. Since he's come into the club mid-season, because of course they lost their manager Jimmy Tellin to Aberdeen, who incidentally they've won all he's won his first 11 games at Aberdeen. So this is a well-run club. They tend to get the right sort of appointments, but they actually played the qualifiers differently to how they played in domestically, more tight and defensive, but domestically they really play an open game. I just don't see how they can live with AZ. AZ are going to suck them into a shootout. I mean, this is one of the best teams in the Netherlands now, with Ajax struggling and Feyenoord not perhaps looking themselves this year. You could argue they're the second best team behind PSV. And they beat Heerenveen 9-1 recently. 9-1. They're starting to find a lot of form. They're getting their rhythm going. Their last 3 wins are 3-0, 9-1, and 2-1. AZ can cover this goal line all by themselves. They really can. Someone's put in the chat there. They like AZ on the handicap. AZ to win plus 1.5 goals with the Barcelona win. I certainly wouldn't oppose that one, Ian Messina. I think AZ win the game, but Elfsborg will give it a go. They do have goal scoring threat in them, and if this one goes under, I think I'm done. With
you're out on Elfsborg. Steve boycotts Elfsborg.
If this doesn't have 3 goals in it, then I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board with Elfsborg and kind of accept they might be playing a different style in Europe. But even if they try and defend here, my point is I just don't think that's good enough. AZ will find ways to ultimately beat them quite convincingly, I think. But if it goes to a shootout, Elfsborg well capable of scoring goals. A match that I've got to talk to you about, Rory, is Nice against Real Sociedad. Now, I was going through the goal lines of all the games today in Europa League, and we get in some crazy high goal lines, mostly 2.5 at least, 2.75 or 3. And then we go down right to the bottom. Nice against Real Sociedad. We've gone over under 2 on the Asian line. And it's like it just sticks out like a sore thumb, such a random goal line. This is a competition which is known for quite a few goals being scored in it. Nice just won 8-0, by the way, on Friday night against Saint Etienne. So their tails are well and truly up. Some might ask, how on earth can you get a goal line, an Asian goal line of 2? Well, the answer is Real Sociedad, isn't it? Because they just don't do. They're quite a good team to watch, I think, but they don't really do that many high-scoring games over the last 2 years, Rory. I mean, what are we going to see from them here? Are they going to be happy with a point, or are they going to come and try and get all 3? They did perform well in the Champions League group stages last year. Shockingly, won their group. Are they going to be? They're going to go well, do you think?
And beat Inter to the top of their group as well, which they're no mugs, obviously. I think with Real Sociedad, I'm dithering as to whether I'd be honeypotted into this game as well, because Real Sociedad are the sort of side that, regardless of what happens in the game, regardless of what's going on with them, their team, they can put out a completely different result compared to exactly what should be happening or what in theory is going on. With this game, I think a function of Real Sociedad's really poor form in Spain is that they're going to try and stink up the joint a little bit here. I think they're going to make this a low-scoring game and hopefully get away with a draw. If they nick a win, great. I don't see them nicking a win just because they don't have goals in them at the moment. I think Ori Oskarsson has come in. He's not scored yet. Umar Sadiq is kind of persona non grata with Imnal Alguacil, the manager. And Mikel Oyarzabal still kind of coming back from an injury, and he's not been in the goals too much of late either. So, yeah, like the one I was looking at for this one was under 2.5 goals, Nice to draw or win. That comes at -118 on the parlay. And I think, again, it's trying to find a way of getting yourself out of this game without necessarily backing Real Sociedad, but without backing a huge win for Nice in this one and giving yourself a bit of a safety catch. But yeah, Nice are in form. It's just Real Sociedad. I think they have so many kind of good players without necessarily being effective players right now.
Why do they miss so many chances, or just not make the right decision in the final third when it feels like their game should contain more goals? They don't. It's not like they operate mega defensive. It just, for some reason, the games go under.
Yeah, I think it's part of the Spain kind of 2010s kind of method, and the idea that you control the game, you have the ball, you reduce the game to 5-6 chances, and you have 3 or 4 of them. And the problem is they don't really have a clinical goal scorer. Oyarzabal is good; he can finish, as he showed in the Euros. Sorry, Steve, but in general, yeah, they don't have a kind of clinical goal scorer, and I think it's become a mental block for them. It has. I think they've really got it in their head now that they don't score, and so trying to get that first goal always weighs particularly heavy on this Real Sociedad side.
And again, I can tell you from an email I got from our traders earlier, 58% of the money's on the under for this game. That is unusually high. The public usually like getting on the over. So for more money to be on the under just shows you what the bettors think of certainly Real Sociedad. I mean, Nice, to be fair, they're not. I mean, they might have just had a really great day on Friday and maybe used up all their goals for the month. Who knows? I think this could be a low-scoring game as well. I think a good watch, a good tactical battle. Maybe Nice. I think draw, actually. I think a draw.
I mean, Steve, you watch more of Ligue 1 than I do, but like I was looking at their results, and they beat Saint-Etienne, obviously 8-0, and they beat Toulouse 4-1, or Angers 4-1. But the other 2 games they had against Marseille, admittedly, are a stronger side, and Toulouse were both unders in those games as well. So that kind of influenced my thinking with that pick. Again, it's not something I'm hugely confident on, but I'm very tempted by.
Yeah, I think it's the decent angle there. Superman Gaucho says a lean to Real Sociedad team total under 0.5, so them not for the visitors not to score here. It's a big price, to be fair. It's quite a big price. It's just if they take their chance, isn't it? Really, they will get some chances. This says Barca should get 3 goals tonight. Just before we go, a couple of games I do want to talk about. Manchester United against Twente. Man United are big favourites in this game, -400 to win the match. I'm looking at a player prop actually for Twente. I can't say it's a player I've seen an awful lot of, but his stats are very, very impressive this season. Sem Stein, a attacking midfield playmaker, has scored in his last 6 games, and he's +265 to score or assist here. I don't trust the Man United defence still, personally. I think Twente might get some chances in this game, and if they do score, this guy's surely involved. So it just looked a big price to me. A little nibble here. This might be my mini hot dog of the day. Sem Stein to score or assist. Bet Rivers are offering that market now, players to score or assist in some of the bigger games. And you can watch all of these soccer fixtures, by the way, that we talked about today on the Bet Rivers app.
So to be fair, Manchester United's defence mostly doesn't look like it trusts Manchester United's defence. They tend to look a bit confused between them. So, their actual underlying metrics in the Premier League are not that amazing either. Onana, believe it or not, in the last couple of years has actually saved them quite a bit, making stops that he probably shouldn't have done. I think Manchester United will win. But if Twente do score, I think this guy, Sem Stein, is one to watch. You could actually look at -103 for a shot on target as well, potentially for him. Galatasary, question about them from Ian Messina. This would be the other game that I was looking at. I really like the goals here, but the goal line is so high. It's 3.25, which is annoyingly high. If this was 2.75 or 3, I'd be all over it. But you can actually get over 3 goals with Bet Rivers at -127. Which I think is not too bad, but I can't be staking a huge amount on that because I think the value might have gone. And it is also Turkey against Greece, which all sorts of mayhem can happen. There's a Spanish referee for this game.
Alejandro Jose Hernandez. So good they named him twice? What's that all about?
Yeah, we're so bad they named him twice. He likes a yellow card, put it that way.
He didn't give a card in Juventus against PSV last week, but the last time he did do Galatasary Sparta Prague last year, 2 red cards. So maybe the atmosphere here in Turkey. I mean, for those who can bet on cards, just take a look there. Potentially, this could be feisty between. I mean, I say Turkey against Greece can go crazy.
Generally, it does tend to be feisty.
This could be ridiculous, actually. So do look there in the cards markets, especially if it starts to get feisty with the fouls and stuff. Significant bets for yesterday, just before we finish the show. People like to note these. The Aston Villa double chance live, $20,000. That was one of the biggest winners. And also we had a good winner actually on Alaves +2 on the Asian handicap against Real Madrid. That was a good winner from the position that Alaves were in.
Very good winner.
A significant bet on that on the +2 Asian handicap. So there's been a lot of bets on the Liga this round. So before we go, Rory, what would be your best bet today?
Yeah, I like the Getafe one. I just don't think that they have goals in them. So yeah, Barca -1, both teams to score no, +125. That's where I'd be most confident.
Barcelona to win 2-0 or greater. My best bet of the day, it's got to be actually in that Bodo Glimt game, over 2.75 goals against Porto, followed by probably that one. Well, it's got to be Elfsborg over 3, hasn't it? But I'm not quite as confident about that one. Before we go, Europa League winner market. There we go for the futures. You got to pick me a winner here, Rory. Spurs at +450. Would you trust them to win a trophy? I mean, I can't remember the last time they did actually win a trophy. It was probably about a decade ago. Would you trust them or not? Who's your winner for the Europa League this year?
I don't think that Ange Postecoglou has enough housery, to put it that way, in his game to win a Europa League. Generally, you get a lot of that kind of thing in the Europa League. I tend to think Athletic Club are not a bad shout, given the final is at home. Big motivation. Nico Williams potentially last game in the final at home in Bilbao. But I actually quite like Porto. I think Porto have a really good shot here because the Champions League teams don't drop in this year. That's the big change.
I actually agree. I think they're the standout price on that list with Bet Rivers. Porto at 12-1. We know they can go the distance. They nearly knocked out Arsenal in the Champions League last year. And this, well, just the rest of the teams just don't look amazing. They could well go quite well. Let us know in the comments on the show, either live now or afterwards it's finished. Who do you think is going to win the Europa League this year? Who are you backing? But thanks everyone who joined live or on demand. We'll be back again tomorrow on Friday. We've got Simon Holden on with the boss, Nigel Seeley, on Thursday. We've got professional gambler Will White on Friday. But it's been brilliant having you here on the show, Rory. Great insight, as always, into the Spanish teams and soccer in general. John Hernandez says Frankfurt at +2,000. Ray, it's been a pleasure, as always. You're always commenting on the shows. And to say, anyone who is new, do hit that subscribe button. It would be really appreciated. And also the like. Loads of content this week has been out on Betting Weekly. So see you next time, everyone. Stay safe, take care, and remember to gamble responsibly.